I get comments a lot about this particular idea, and I really understand where this guy is coming from, because I used to think a lot like this myself. So the guy, and I'm presuming it's a bloke, it could be a girl, but it sounds like something a bloke would say. This guy is either very young, he's only starting out in his drinking, or he's spoofing, he's blackguarding. And what he basically said was, I've stopped drinking, me, and I might live 20 years longer, but he would have way more fun with his drugs and woman lifestyle, right? So sex, drugs and rock and roll. This is what I call a subjective truth. And I'll come back to this bloke in a second. Now, people use subjective truths all the time to rationalize their bad habits, right? For instance, all drinkers are going to convince themselves that their drinking isn't a problem, that their drinking isn't a problem, or that it's necessary for them to cope with certain situations, for instance, or that their drinking results in having a more exciting life. Now, this creates what's known as cognitive dissonance, and it's when you get two conflicting ideas or two conflicting beliefs that create this internal conflict and an internal discomfort because of that. Now, when we talk about truth, there are two types of truths to keep in mind: subjective and objective. Now, while personal experiences are important in themselves, they don't necessarily represent the objective truth. You know, when you're trying to figure out how to make changes in your life, what you need to change, who you need to change into, you better know the reality of the situation, and not just your version of that reality, right? You need to know reality, right? Even when that reality is going to make you feel uncomfortable. And I would say especially when reality makes you feel uncomfortable. You know, when you're uncomfortable, you're likely a lot closer to the truth than when you're feeling in your comfort zone, right? It's getting you closer to understanding these cognitive dissonances that they exist, and then you can do something about them. So I think this is one of the reasons why change can be so uncomfortable, right? Why people put it off. You know, in the case of alcohol, it means accepting not only that your beliefs or your habits are harming you. These are things that you've known for some time. These are things that you've been hiding from. You know, you can see it, you can feel it, you understand that change has to happen, but you're not doing anything about it. You're procrastinating. You know, you're putting things off, and that adds levels of discomfort. You know, it adds dissonance, and it moves you to do more of the same. And we all know why we drink. There's a lot of people who drink because they want to hide from their lives, and that's why. You know, now getting back to this guy's comment, the consequences of drinking alcohol don't happen overnight. They take years to pile up in your life. You know, it's not like you suddenly drop off a cliff. You know, that's the kind of subjective logic that would lead you to think that you drink, you party, you enjoy yourself, and then one day, perhaps a few years from now, in the middle of a drinking session, you just have a massive heart attack and you drop dead on the spot, right? That's what I used to think. You know, that's the image that I held in my head for so many years, that was going to happen to me. You know, that's something I think similar happened to the actor Oliver Reed, somebody I used to genuinely be a hero. Sudden death, drinking in a bar in Malta, collapses at the bar, dies on his way to the hospital, right? So I think men especially tend to glorify that kind of thing and expect that for ourselves, that drop off. And that's not the truth in most cases. You know, alcohol damage can literally cause years of illness and years of pain before you eventually get to that premature death. And in most cases, it's not a fucking easy slip off into that premature death. Ask any nurse, right, who is dealing with end stage alcoholics, and they will tell you that it is a slow, agonizing death that lasts years in some cases. You know, going back to the guy's comment, he's talking about me living 20 years longer, and he probably has that right. I think I'm going to live an extra 20 years, at least, but not in comparison to him and his lifestyle, in comparison to me and who I used to be. You know, I'd reckon I've added at least another 20 years to my life, at least another 20 good quality years to my life. And just because I made that one decision to stop putting this shit into my body. And that's not taking into account all the other changes I've made because I made that one good decision, right? And it's really, you know, it's the saddest part of this is to hear people speak in this way about their drinking life. It really is, you know, to think back that I used to think that. And the really sad thing is that this nonsense is being repeated to youngsters who don't know any better. You know, it's leading them down that same self-destructive path. And it's time to cop on, you know, not just for the people who are making these comments, but for all those people who are going to follow you. You know, that's one of the biggest reasons I stopped. You know, not just for myself and my own health and my longevity, but for my sons as well. Looking at my son and realizing that I was leading him down that garden path, or at least partly responsible. So remember that change is a process that can take time. You're going to have setbacks, but by seeking out the reality of your situation, looking only for the objective truth in your situation and making that your foundation for moving forwards, it's really possible and likely that you can overcome any bad habit, and you most certainly will live a much healthier and happier life. So take care. As usual, our free beginner's guide to getting and staying sober is still free. It's less than an hour to take it, right? You can speed it up so it can be less than that, but I think it will be the best hour that you spend in terms of getting rid of your alcohol habit. It's in the description below. Take care of yourself. Onwards and upwards. Bye now.